Okay, today on Pro Mindset, I have a young lady, Robyn Tanner. Robyn, I want to welcome you to Pro Mindset.
Thank you so much, Craig.
And I understand, and I met you through a mutual friend, Anthony Trucks, but I understand that you're a leading transformational coach, motivational speaker, rising author, and you're an inspiring leader whose transparent, tough love, energy, and enthusiasm captivates your clients. Okay. And you help your clients surrender their old self, question their current self, and fight for their future self. You're a mother of two.
I am all those things in one.
And your brand, according to everything in your on your website, is to motivate, challenge, inspire, and change.
Absolutely.
Welcome again to Pro Mindset.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, Robyn, as a coach, an author, a speaker, you have a lot going on. Workshops, workouts, all these things. Let's start out by diving into your coaching. What is the number one thing that your clients need and benefit from you? Is it overcoming fear? Is it being stuck in the mud? What is it?
All the above, but I like what you just said, stuck in the mud. I basically take people from where they're at and we build their courage to get them to actually act on that thing inside, that thing that they want to do, but they're not acting on it. That's how I transform their life, is building that courage and resilience and that authenticity so that they actually do what they want to do.
So is it a combination of just building, or is it in conjunction with tearing down barriers and walls too?
It's a holistic approach. So when I first started coaching, I was 19 years old, only 25 right now. So it hasn't really been that long. All
Yeah.
right. It hasn't been that long, Craig. It's 27 years, do the math. But so when I started coaching in fitness as a personal trainer, aerobics, like we're talking back to like Jane Fonda era. Okay. That's what I grew up on. And Billy Blanks, Tybo, all of that. And I built on that to start my training business, coaching business, had a brick and mortar gym for several years. And now I've been doing this for 8 years. And it was, people come to you, they want to lose weight. They want to be healthier. They want to look good. They want to feel good. They want to be quote unquote healthy. And what I realized over time was that it's truly a willingness to change your perspective, to have that determination to actually build that life that you love, that you can keep up with, because anybody can follow a diet for 6 weeks, lose the weight, and then you gain it all right back, right? Like we've never done that before. And after so many years of coaching thousands and thousands and thousands of men and women, all different ages, cultures, backgrounds, the one thing that was missing was that mindset and was that faith in themselves and belief in themselves. So organically, I built my business based on spiritual, emotional, mental, and the physical fitness aspect. So I come at you from a holistic approach and working each of those muscles. And for me, without going too in deep it basically, that spiritual fitness is that belief and that faith muscle, right? Like you've got to believe and have that vision of your future self. And the emotional point for me is the courage, building that courage muscle so that you actually, have the courage to set the boundaries in place and the standards and raise your ambitions. And then the mental part is that integrity, that keeping your promises, which for me is building your confidence in yourself. And then the last one is the physical fitness, which is honoring your body. And I have connected all of those pieces, and I just kind of, my mantra is that we can't have one and be successful in one area without the other, that they all four work together. So that's really how I've taken it on to help, these people transform their lives from where they're at to actually want to be, and close that gap that seems to be, I think, like a fad term right now, but that's how we transform lives.
Okay, out of those four areas, what is the one that's the most difficult to change?
Ooh, great question. I think the hardest one is their visualization and their belief in themselves. Most people don't believe it's possible for them. It's possible for everybody else. we put ourselves on the back burners. I work with mostly women now in my coaching business, and a lot of them, they're people pleasers. They're doing for everybody in the community. They're doing for their jobs. They're doing for their families, and they're putting themselves last, and they're settling. And what did you say in the beginning? Stuck in the mud. They're kind of stuck in that they're obligated or they feel guilty and they don't believe that it's possible for them. They don't believe that they deserve it, and their self-worth is really low. And without being able to create that vision of your future self and fight for it, which is one of my messages, which we'll talk about later, is to create that belief and that faith in yourself. Because if you can see it and believe it, you can become it, period. And then all the other ones kind of piggyback and stack on top of that.
Well, one of the things along that same line that I found in the sports world is that you perform consistent with your identity. And unless you change your identity, you can't change your performance. And what impacts your identity is your story, because you bring your past with you. And if you don't reframe your past, rewrite your story, it keeps you carry that with you wherever you go, and it doesn't show up until a couple different situations. One is a pretty important moment. The second one is you're under some pressure. It shows up then. And when you really want something really bad is when it shows up the most. So I think that we're, in some respects, talking about identity. Because if you don't modify who you are and you don't believe in that identity of who you are, you can't really have permanent change. Is that fair?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. Hands down. It's one of the biggest struggles. I had a client last week, in fact, and we're still struggling, 5 months in, for her to create and really just identify with that future person that she wants to become. We all say we want to be successful and we want to be healthy and we want freedom, but a lot of times people can't define it. And how are you supposed to align with something that you can't even define? We don't know what we're chasing. We don't know what we're after. And my job, I believe that my mission and my calling is to get people to wake up to that life that they really want to be living and create that identity. And that's, fighting for your future self. And the only way to do that is to face your giants and get really real with where you're at right now. I've found that a lot of people are too scared to ask the questions, much less answer them, and face themselves and face the truth about where they're starting with, what they're holding on to from their past, right? You mentioned bringing in your past. And that's one of the things, is that you've got to surrender that old life first. You have to surrender what is holding you back, what used to be, where you think you should be. All of those bad stories, I call it your BS. It's your bad stories. You've got to be able to question this current self so that we can see what we're working with to create that future life. Like, what are you going to hold on to? What from your past is good? Because not everything from our past is bad. We can't assume that, like, we all had this trauma and this bad childhood. Some of us had great lives, right? I had a great childhood. I didn't have any type of trauma or hardship or adversity until much later into life. And it's really just kind of deciding what's coming with me, what is serving my future self, what right here in my current self can I work on to get better, improve, refine, adjust, eliminate, elevate, so that I can create that future self and keep stepping day by day into that future self and bring it into the present. So it doesn't seem like it's so far off. I think one of the struggles that we have is that it seems so far away. That life that we want, that body that we want, that success, in our careers that we want, that financial freedom we want, that, traveling, or whatever it is for people, their definition of it, it feels like it's far away. And I'm trying to get people to realize it's not as far away as you think. And you can actually live both lives at the same time. Like, there's a lot of maybe parents, I've got two small kids, if you're going to wait for the kids to go to college, you're going to wait for them to move out, you're going to wait, there comes one coming down the stairs. So you can't make this up. This is entrepreneurship at home, in the afternoon with your teenager at home for summer. This is real life. So, and you try to, like, model that, like, wait, we can do both. We don't have to wait for the kids. We can show our kids right now. We can show our team, the people that we're leading in our church or our communities or wherever, that, like, you can actually pay down your debt and still travel. You can actually work on your hobby or create a side hustle while you're still, in your day-to-day obligations. And that's just really questioning and asking yourselves the hard questions about what's staying, what needs to be refined, and where are we heading?
So I'm going to regurgitate what I just heard you say.
Yes, please.
First thing you have to do is get very clear about where you're going or what you want to be in your future.
Absolutely.
The second thing is you have to look in your rearview mirror and decide what are your BS and what do you want to bring with you, what's for you and what's against you.
Yep.
And then you have to act.
Absolutely.
You have to do something, right? So you have this great session where you download all the things you want to be or have or do or experience in your future.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't act, you never connect. So what is the first step? What is generally the first step a person has to take to they're stuck in the mud?
Yeah.
And they want to get out of the mud. What's the first step they have to do?
The first step is what I call facing your giants. Actually, let me take that back. You got to pick your fight, because you've just got to pick your fight. You got to decide what is most important right now, because a lot of the times we're like, well, I've got this and this, and we got like 10 things that we want to fix, or we want to change, or we want to improve, or we want to learn, right? Good, bad, or ugly. I think a lot of people tend to think coaching is like a negative thing, like something's wrong with me, or I'm weak. Whether it's coaching is what matters most, how can we improve you, how can we elevate you, how can we remove things that aren't working for you. But the first thing is to decide, what are we going to work on right now? What is most important to you? What are your values? What's your priority? What is it for you? And then we're going to work on that battle one step at a time. And the next step from that would be facing that giant, getting really real with where you're at right now, like going to the mirror, having your Jesus moment, eye to eye in the mirror, and being able to be honest with where you're at. And that's where I think people get stuck, because they don't want to know the answers, because it usually means we have to let go of something we're holding on to, even if it's fear or complacency, and even if it's a place of pain, because it's familiar. And familiar is easy. It's really easy living a lie. It really is. I did it for several years. I don't ever want to go back to that life. It's really easy to live a lie and kid yourself. So first step, pick your battle. Second step, face that giant.
And the third step, related to you've done the first two steps. What's the next step?
Uh-huh.
I know it's case by case, but what is it? Is it Monday morning? Is it what does that look like?
Next step is going to be is creating that rhythm. I call it, somebody's going to call it a schedule or whatever, your calendar, but for me it's a rhythm that you can do and keep up with, that you can be flexible with, that you're not like boxed in by it, you're not limited by it, but that it serves your future self. And that involves the things that you're working on, that future self life, while you're still doing your current day-to-day responsibilities. Not because, right, we're parents, we've got jobs, we've got, some of us don't even have dreams and we're trying to create them. But that next step, third step, is really trying to get what's my schedule going to look like? When am I going to work out? When am I going to study? When am I going to do personal development? Do I need to go to coaching or counseling or therapy? Because those are real life things that we just don't plan for. And they still have like a negative, association with them, which I think is really silly, because we all need mentors and role models in our life that can help us make sure that we're on the right path. I told my coaching group the other day, I was like, quit hanging around people that are just as lost as you. They're in the same season as you. We don't want to be going down the same path. They can be your friends, but you might have to, take a moment and align yourself with people that are on the same path with you, that are further ahead in the game in that area of your life that you want to be on. And I think that's an important step that we miss, because it's unfamiliar and it's scary and it's very uncomfortable to step outside your comfort zone. But that's where you start to take the action and follow through. And then to piggyback on that is, you got to check it every week. I say in personal training, I used to always say, check yourself so you don't wreck yourself. You've done that a lot in sports, where is your body in proper alignment? Are you getting rest? Are you nourishing yourself with the right food so that you have the right energy? But we go through life on autopilot, and we're not checking ourselves, and we're wrecking ourselves. We're burning out. We're exhausted. We're waking up tired. We're not excited about the day. And I want people to be alive. I want them to be awake. And that ultimate mission for me is to live alive. And in order to do that, you got to go through the pain and the grief and the reflection on yourself and being able to be flexible to make the changes where you need them.
Okay, so in athletics, most people that play sports are younger. And for people
Mm-hmm.
that aspire to be at the highest level, they sometimes are teenagers or in their 20s. Their
Yeah.
dream's not dead yet.
No.
Where a lot of adults, their dreams have died and they have to
Mm-hmm.
reinvent themselves. So
Mm-hmm.
let's take this and apply it to the athlete mentality, the younger person who still has a dream.
Yeah.
And their dream is incredibly clear. Here's the problem. Their circumstances don't line up with their dream. They know what their dream is. They're working hard,
Right.
but their
Right.
circumstances are not matching up. So how do you help someone in that situation?
That's a great question. The first one, it's going to take me back to that spiritual fitness, is your faith and your belief in yourself, your faith in a higher power. Mine's in God, but everybody's got something different. It's your faith to have that childlike faith. You really have to go back and absolutely believe in what you're doing. I think everybody's got it inside. And I do this in almost every single one of my talks, but it's like right here in the pit. Like, and it's a scream that is inside you, that is nagging you, that is not laying up on you. And a lot of us, I think, just stifle that. We throw more dirt on top of it so that it's muffled and we can't hear it. And it's really believing, like if it keeps coming back, Craig, like if it keeps coming back, there's something to it. And it's the fact that we're not acting on it because we don't believe it's possible for us. So I do a series of, I'm a coach that questions you a lot. I'm a very transparent coach. I'm like the Gordon Ramsay coach. I'm like in your face, like, it, and I don't want to sugarcoat anything, but it's, you don't ask. My book is filled with questions. And if you don't answer them, you're never going to really get to that empowered or even enlightened state that it is possible for you. So I would say, like, number one is your faith and belief in yourself. And the way to get that, if you don't have it, would be to recall on past times in your life when you were a child or you were a teenager or you were in college or the last job you had where you achieved, one of those wins. And you got to keep them in your back pocket so that you can recall on that or remember, what did you do then? How did you overcome it? What did you do to be successful? What was your rhythm? What was your mindset? What was your perspective on it? Because life happens to us as adults and then it keeps happening and happening and happening. I think we just use that as a crutch to actually not. I think there's probably actually a lot more people out there that do believe. They either don't know how or they're caught up in the why. And then they're tired.
Well, let's shift to the mainstream out of athletics. I would say that the majority of people, working Americans, aren't doing their plan A.
Yeah.
This is when they were 10 years old, they did not dream about doing what they're doing now.
Mm-mm.
I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a banker, real estate person, it doesn't matter, salesperson of some nature.
Yeah.
That's not what they dreamed they would be doing. And so I think a lot of people struggle with the idea that I'm not really getting to live the life that I thought I was going to live.
Right.
Right. And so then they go through an identity crisis of sorts because
yeah.
this is not what I signed up for. There's a lot of people that get married and after 5, 10, 15, 20 years go, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I was hoping for. This is not what I was expecting him or her to do or be. How do people reconcile that?
Well, I think it's a choice. And that's something hard that most people don't want to hear. It's a choice. Life is full of choices. And, and it's a split second. Like before we go to eat something that we know that we shouldn't eat, it's a split second where we can choose something healthy or we can choose junk food. It's a split second to hit snooze. It's a split second to like wake up and get up and do it. We're allowing our feelings to really get in the way of our dreams. And it's not that they can't have that life. They're choosing not to have it. I believe that wholeheartedly. I've struggled with a lot of adversity in my life. I was left for dead. I have a lot of things going on beneath the surface, but I look perfectly fine. I look perfectly healthy. You would never know that there's something on the inside of me that I fight every single day. And there's so many people out there fighting things. whether it's their physical health or it's the relationship that they didn't think, or the job that they're in that is not, they don't feel like they're contributing or serving or impacting, or they're not challenged or motivated, whatever it might be. And we hide in plain sight. But it's a choice. It's really a choice to step out and say, you know what, today, I'm going to make a difference to fight for that future self. And that's what I believe, it's a fight, because it's very easy to get pulled into, it's easier to sit here on the couch and watch Netflix. It's easier to stay in the marriage and not confront and communicate and really be open and vulnerable and stand there and talk about, hey, these are my dreams. These are, my wishes. And we have all these unmet expectations because we can't communicate. We're too scared to communicate. We don't have the courage to do it, or the confidence, because we're not willing to have that childlike faith. So it's a fight, and a lot of people are choosing to just fight for the wrong battle. They're basically fighting to keep the day-to-day job that they don't really like, but it's a good paycheck and it has benefits and it, pays all the bills. So they've got security, yet on the inside, they're dying. So it's a choice for me.
I get it.
Hard truth, but that's my I come from a family where great family, but a lot of people in my family chose to not follow through on their dreams, or chose different paths than I did. And I think I saw that, and it made me go the complete opposite direction, where I was like, no, I'm going to live my dream. I'm going to break this curse. I'm going to be the one to step out and actually do the thing. When I was a little girl, I wanted to be a writer. So it's funny that you say, a lot of people grow up and they're not doing what they wanted to do. And it took me a while to get here and to build it, but I'm doing what I wanted to do as a child. And I think everybody has the ability to do that. We just choose not to.
So it's a choice and it's a fight.
Mm-hmm.
It's a choice and a fight.
It is.
The choice is pretty immediate. The fight is a longer term.
Ongoing, every day, every minute. It's a fight. I mean, being an entrepreneur is tough. You know this. Being a coach is tough. Being in business for yourself. We wear multiple hats, and you have to be flexible, and you have to be able to ride that roller coaster, because it's like it's never ending. We don't ever get off of it. The merry-go-round is much easier, and the Ferris wheel much easier. And it's just, you got to be willing to endure. Without the endurance, and it's got to be patient endurance. You've got to be willing to be patient while you endure, but you also have to be able to fight. And because there's days where, Craig, I'm like, you know what they say about struggling artists is true, right? I'm just going to go it'd be easier for me to go get a 9-to-5 job, and I get paid every single 2 weeks, and I have benefits, and I don't have to worry anything, but I'm psychologically unemployable. There's no way I could go build somebody else's dream when I have dreams of my own. But that is my choice and my mentality. And the people that come to me, they have that inside them. And it's stirring. They're just not quite sure how to take action on it. And that's what I help them do.
That's prophetic what you said, Robyn, about I couldn't spend my time helping somebody else build their dream. Because if you're an entrepreneur, that's exactly what you do, is you build your own dream. So let's segue into talking about your book. But we're also going to talk about you, but we're going to talk about your book first. And it's titled The Machete Mentality, and it's fighting for your future self. Why did you write the book? What is the message, and how does it help people?
Awesome. Great question. So I wrote the book because I was writing another book at the time, and it wasn't getting done. And my coach, Anthony Truck, said, just write a book. So this is the product of the book. But really, I wrote it as a guide. It's really a guide for coaching and kind of overcoming adversity and building that resilience. So it's all about adversity and resilience. It's got a workbook built in to help people. And it's really like, as you read the book, it looks a lot bigger than it is, but they're short, very succinct chapters, very tight and clear, punchy, like we're having a conversation, with a workbook at the end for you. I basically guide them through my coaching program. And I do it by telling my stories from my clients. But the machete mentality for me means we're going to find a way, we're going to make a way, we're going to create our own path. And it literally is, if you're imagining in your head right now, taking a machete through the woods, through the forest, and creating your own path, because there isn't one for you right now. that is the vision I want to give my audience, my clients, my readers, is that you can create your own path. It's going to take some elbow grease and some duct tape and zip ties, and you're going to get your fingernails dirty. But it is totally possible for you to create your own path. And that's where it came from. That was the vision that I tried to give my clients when they were trying to lose weight and they were struggling with, relationship with food. When then they started bringing to me their problems with relationships at home, and all of it was just like a melting pot for, wow, this is that spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical fitness all tied together. So that's what started the book. And then that fight for your future self really stemmed from me, one of my own personal stories where I was left for dead and I almost died.
Okay, so I can't not ask you about that. So tell me about being left for dead and you almost died.
Well, I think I'm on my 10-year anniversary of it, but I was in the best shape of my life, like the crazy marathon runner, tough mudder, CrossFit. I had had both of my kids and they were like 3 and 5 at the time. And life was just awesome. And I got really sick all of a sudden, and where I could not walk. And one night I couldn't walk. And I looked completely fine on the outside and went to the emergency room, and they sent me home and pumped me full of, all the medicine they do when you go to the hospital. And 2, 3 days later, I was back. This went on for about 6 weeks. I had to teach myself how to fight and question authority because they kept telling me everything was fine. There was nothing wrong with me. I went to 9 different doctors, and I was literally dying on the inside from a rare infection, and they missed it. They sent me home with a white blood cell count that was 4 times what it was supposed to be, which it was through the roof, and human error basically missed it. And went to the hospital one day on that ninth. That's just that one more phone call, one more doctor, and I thought I was crazy at the time, Craig, because I didn't have normal signs of infection, and what had happened was this rare bacteria was inside me. It had formed abscesses in my spine and in my hip. So once they finally found it, it was a matter of minutes and hours where they said, we're going to do emergency surgery and we have to remove part of your spine. And here I am as a mother, and just freaking out that I've got these little kids, that I could be paralyzed, that I could be dead. And there wasn't a choice. It was, you will die or we're going to do surgery. So, you don't really have a choice. And it was funny because they wheeled me in and I was like, can I get like a second opinion? And this was like the ninth doctor that, I had been through, but at the time. Um, so obviously I lived, but I did have to learn how to walk again. I had to go through a lot of physical therapy, IV medications, and just tons of doctors just poked and prodded. I was in ICU. I ended up becoming septic because it had gotten into my bloodstream. It was just a really rare case for somebody. I was 36 at the time. They had never seen it, and I was just a science project in real life. And unfortunately and fortunately at the time, Craig, I said I had the picture perfect life, but it was really a facade. And I was really dying on the inside in 2 ways, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. I wasn't happy in my marriage. I wasn't happy with where I was at in life. I really didn't feel like I had a purpose or anything. And here this infection came along, nearly killed me. And I woke up from that, and I haven't been the same since. And that's really what has propelled me into, holy, I've got to live a life. Like, I cannot hide in plain sight anymore. I can't stay stuck. I can't settle. So I'm going to use this second chance to build that life that I love. I'm going to fight for my future self. And eventually it turned into me after I got better and stronger, into getting my personal training certification updated, into building my own business, into getting a gym and a brick and mortar from the ground up, from a dirt field with no clients, and moving and going through a divorce, and a lot of other things that happen to most of us later in life. But it really created the foundation for me with mortality motivation to live my life on my terms, not to settle, to be very bold and courageous every single day, even if it's just a little tiny bit. But that is fighting for my future self. I just got to show up a little bit. And I think that's the disconnect with people, is they think that they got to do all of this, right? And sometimes it's just this and this and this, and then it compounds. And then all of a sudden you have this unapologetic authenticity of like, wait, I don't have to say yes if I don't want to. Wait, is this something that, is going to serve my future self? Will this help impact my legacy and my current life, my kids, my business, my mission? So all of those things, and this was a course over 8 to 10 years, and it helped me build this book, and it's helping me write the other books. But that's really the foundation for my message and my mission to help people live alive.
Wow, girl. Okay, so I've never heard, and I'm sure the audience has heard it before, but I've never heard mortality motivation. I love that. How can people have mortality motivation without the doctor report?
I knew you were going to ask that question. That is a great question. Whew, and it's a tough one. It's actually, and I'll be honest, I'm not sure that I have the answer for it, because it's something that I'm actually studying and working on in my coaching and in my writing as well. Because until you experience that life and death, until it is gripped from you, if you've never had to learn how to walk again, if you've never been septic in the hospital, if you've never been, face to face, even if you're watching somebody else, my stepmom died at the same time that I was going through this. So I even had to deal with like the survivor's guilt and PTSD and things like that as I'm coming out. Why did I live and she die? It's mortality motivation is, it's really hard to, it's not a tangible thing. So I'm not quite sure I have an answer. I wish I did, come back in 6 months or a year when I'm done studying it. What I try to instill in my clients and my audience through my writing or my speaking is that voice inside you that's telling. I had that voice inside, Craig, before I was in the hospital, about to die. I had it and I was ignoring it. I was shoving it down. I was just pretending, I was just going through the motions in life because life was good. Fancy house, fancy car, good solid paycheck, all of the things, all of the accolades. But there was this inside me. And it took that dying to like wake me up and go, oh, no, no, no. So, I kind of try to get my clients to think about, if you were to close your eyes and you're standing on the edge of a cliff, or if you've ever jumped off a cliff. You ever jumped off a cliff before?
I have not.
You got to go jump off a cliff. Next vacation, you got to go jump off a cliff.
Into water?
But yeah, into water.
Head first?
I've never done it head first. No, just to jump. But you're standing there. Imagine yourself standing there on the edge. And it's also like that break from, but when you jump, the exhilarating feeling of the water is amazing. And anybody that's listening to this right now and watching it, what I'm talking about. It might be some people could experience it with skydiving, or they're risk takers, or they're scuba divers. I've done scuba diving and jumping into the night, doing night water swims with sharks. Like you become a little bit more, just a little riskier, a little more adventurous, a little more spontaneous. And it's not to be careless with your life, just that you want to experience that I'm alive. And that sometimes is feeling pain, and it's sometimes the pleasure part. But mortality motivation is, I would attach yourself to somebody, if that's the best way to feel it, is to get into a group or attach yourself to somebody who has that, so that you can be inspired by the way that they live. Because I just don't know that it's something that we can transfer other than my energy. Is that I'm not going to sit around and wait for life to pass me by. I'm not going to wait for my kids to go to college. They're 14, 13, 15. They're at that teenage years where you're not quite sure how old your kids are anymore. Anybody else out there like that? I'm not going to put my life on hold. So I think the best thing would be to associate yourself with somebody who is living a life like that, because I think it's extremely inspiring. 2 or 3 of my role models and mentors have had this mortality motivation. So it's not a term at all that I have coined. It's definitely a thing.
Well, in listening to you, the thing that comes to my mind is that, and this is a spiritual perspective,
Mm-hmm.
It's when you're living your truth. It's when you're living God's purpose for your life. God put you on this planet for a reason. At this
Yeah.
time and place, to be born to the parents that you're born to have the kids you have, to be stationed where you at. Everything is designed.
Yeah.
And when you're living in God's purpose, you really are in the zone of mortality motivation, because
Mm-hmm.
you've cut out all the BS. You're
Mm-hmm.
living for a purpose. So I think
Yeah.
it's getting, so, like, for example, we talked about earlier, getting real clear about your dreams, getting real
Absolutely.
clear about your future self.
Mm-hmm.
Well, mortality motivation is just a 1 degree off from that. From the standpoint, it's getting real clear on what your purpose is.
Mm-hmm.
Because
And
when
I
you're living in your purpose, you're not scared of, you don't have the fear
no,
that you have when you don't.
mm-mm,
And you're
none
not waiting.
whatsoever.
You
Yeah.
don't wait.
And I think that's key. You don't wait. You just don't. It's okay, because when you have the faith that, like, if it was my time, it was my time, I wouldn't be here. So that I know. So the fear of that is removed. Um, but I think it's also it's that intuition that you have now that, like, I'm going to be okay. So when because life has happened to me 10 more times since that, right? Like, it hasn't been sunshines and rainbows and I'm living some unicorn life since then. I haven't been freed forever of adversity or other challenges, but now I know how to handle them. And I know that I came through that. So I keep building on that. But that intuition for myself to have faith in God. Now, when I was, uh, you know, in the hospital, I didn't believe in God. I wasn't a believer. Faith wasn't a part of my life at all. And it didn't happen for another 8 years, about 8 years. So maybe six, somewhere around there, 6 or 8 years to do the math. Uh, but I know that along the way, I was building that faith based on, I almost died watching my stepmom die and I didn't. And there was a choice there for me to go, how am I going to use my life now? How am I going to set, uh, to be like a role model? How am I going to model my life now? But uh, my purpose still has kind of changed and shift since that time. I've stepped in different roles. I thought I was going to just own multiple gyms and just license them out, and that was going to be that. And COVID happened, and I decided to shut my brick and mortar doors down. And then I went online, and I have the fitness app, and now I'm able to reach clients in Germany. So that's just opening up kind of different levels of my purpose now. And then I was able to speak, and I've been able to write my books and kind of bring that childhood dream into where I'm at now. So I think they're all connected, but I like what you say about it being following your purpose and calling. But I think a lot of people don't know how to listen to that. It's the problem. And
I
that's
agree.
what I hope my message and my life teaches people, is how to honor that, listen to it, and then be obedient to it.
Okay, so let's shift gears again.
Yeah.
You talk about speaking. You're a speaker. What is your keynote message, and what pain or problem gives you the
Mm.
passion to speak with purpose? A lot of peace.
I love it. Love it. Wake your warrior. We all got a fighter inside, Craig. So if you haven't felt it yet, that is my wake your warrior. Learn how to live alive by fighting for your future self. And clearly, obviously, my, almost dying was part of it, but also becoming an entrepreneur and building that dream. I chose to go homeless for my American dream. I lived with both of my two kids in my gym for 6 months because I couldn't afford both lives. I couldn't afford that future life and my faith that God had said, you're going to go build this gym. It's going to be amazing. You're going to touch lives. Oh, wait, you can't afford to do it. So I'm going to only fund, one set, and you have to choose. And I decided to give up my home. I couldn't pay all of the bills. So that was one of the things, but I didn't want to stay stuck. So I went, and I believed so much in my dream that we went and we lived in our gym for 6 months. And looking back now, it doesn't seem so horrible, but that is one of my messages, is that people are making choices, and every single one of them. And I got a lot of ridicule for, you're a single mom at the time and you're choosing to go homeless for your dream. But I was really choosing to show my kids what it's going to take the sacrifice and the effort and the determination that you can come back from that and build on it better. And everything has been restored since then. But my message is to teach people you don't have to stay where you're at. You can live a life, but you got to fight for it. And it's not easy. And there's plenty of coaches out there, and it's cool. They go with the flow. They're in that flow state. They're cheerleader coaches. I am not that coach. I am not that speaker. I am not, let's wake up, let's work for it. It's the machete mentality. Find a way, make a way. If you really want this to happen, if you really believe in it, if God has put it on your heart, if you've already sacrificed for it, we didn't come this far to stay here. Let's keep going. Let's find a way to keep going. And that goes with, let's pick our battle. Which battle are we going to fight first? Get really clear on your standards, where you're at, what's important to you, what are your non-negotiables? And then we got to take action on them. And then the last one, you got to claim your victory. You got to believe it before you get to become it or have it or any of those things. And that's really my, that's what I'm after as a speaker. I want to fire up the people that are being quiet. And
I'm fired up. I'm fired up, girl. Hey, let me ask you this. Yeah. I love your message. I love your message.
Thank you.
I 1000% agree with your message. But now I want you to be vulnerable, and I'm going to challenge you.
All right.
What are you not doing? What is your future self that you've put on hold, that you've been waiting on, that you haven't chosen to act on, that you coach people to do because you've done so many things, but there's the next thing. What is your next thing that you need somebody to kick you in the butt so you go do it?
That's a great question. That's a great question. I ask myself that every single day. Two things I'm not doing. I am not, I don't put myself out there enough because I like to write, and because I do a lot of my coaching online. I don't go put myself out there in the real world. Now at the gym I was, but right now, so I'm trying to get into the network. I'm trying to get out there so that I actually am in front of people again. I think we got caught. Let's bring it on me. I got caught, and I don't have to go outside my house anymore. I don't have to leave my 5-mile radius. So I really don't put myself out there. I don't expose myself. And that is something that I'm working on because I want to write about it. That's not a problem. But I'm caught here behind the computer. I'm caught in my own home instead of putting myself out there. And the other one would be I'll tell myself my BS is I hate sales. I hate sales. And I am an entrepreneur and I'm a business owner, and I have to sell my speaking. I got to sell my coaching. And it is a struggle for me to sell. I just flow to me and I can help you. And I've got to get real brave and real bold, and this will change your life. Why are you not doing this? This is amazing. This is awesome. It is life-changing. You'll never forget it. You'll have it forever. You will never be the same. You will level up in every area of your life. You will become braver and bolder and fearless and unapologetic, and you will wake up excited every single day, and you'll go to bed rested, and you'll high-five yourself every day and think you're just badass and kick-ass, and life is awesome, because it is. Fight for the fairy tale. And I don't, it's great. I believe in it. 100%. I went homeless for it. I live every day for it. But the exchange of, hey, let me pay me for my services has been a struggle for me. And that is something I have never said out loud on air before. So thanks, Craig.
You said it. I've got this poem I was looking up on my phone that I'm going to read because I think it applies to what you were talking about. So bear with me here. There is a vitality in life, in a life force, an energy, an awakening that is translated through you into action. Because there's only one of you in all of time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium or any other person, and it will be lost. The world will not have it. It is not your business to determine how good or how valuable it is. Basically, it's go do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
And so the last part of the poem is to keep your channel open. And I think we turn our channels off all the time.
Yeah.
Because, even myself, I've got the same challenges you have. We all have the same challenges. It's like, how far are you willing to stick your neck out? I don't mind getting chopped off a little bit, but I don't want to stick it out too far because I might really get beheaded. Or I might be embarrassed or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And then the second comment I have related to asking you about your vulnerability was you stated, if I heard you correctly, that you don't like sales. Well, you've got to reframe how you look at sales.
Absolutely.
Because as a lawyer, when I got out of law school, they don't teach you about sales in law school, but if you don't service clients, you don't have a business.
Right.
And so you have to look at how are you benefiting people that are happy to pay you for your service. And you just have to totally redesign, reframe everything you do and how it benefits people. So it's not selling anybody, it's helping people.
Right. No, absolutely. I hear you loud and clear. And that's in my head. That is definitely in my head. It's something that I'm getting better at it, but that's definitely one of the things that I try to not necessarily coach myself, but remind myself daily and every time I step into that situation. So I'm up in my game, which is what I would tell my audience to do and my clients to do is I'm up in my game on, offering that, on getting out in front of people and out from behind my little writing world back here.
Okay. So this is my final question.
That was a doozy that you just gave me, and now you're going to give me a final one on top of that.
Easy.
Okay.
This one's easy. This
quiz.
one's easy.
Okay. All right.
Okay. What would you like to share that I haven't asked you about that the world needs to hear?
That is possible. That I think, I said it earlier, the fight for the fairy tale. It is possible. And I mean that in the sense of, and I don't want to dial in just on women, because men I know feel this way too. I've had the conversations with my husband and former men clients, but that we can actually build that life that we love, where we serve people and we earn a living and we have an income that is based upon our impact and our influence, that is from the heart, that is good. And then we can have the happy marriage that is still adventurous and still as fun as it was when we first started dating, that you can have the healthy body and the clothes fit, and it's, you go to the doctor and you get the good, clean bill of health. You can travel and you can, still save money for retirement or pay down your debts, that you can do both at the same time, that it's possible to create that life. And you don't have to wait. You fight for the fairy tale. And that's something that I'm living, and to be satisfied in the now, but to keep striving for the future so that you're not caught up and, you're not there yet. We're so attached to these outcomes, but that you're in the process and you're attached to your effort and your energy. And I think that's something really important. And that's fighting for the fairy tale for me. It's, I love my life. God has blessed me. It has been hard and I've overcome a lot of things, but I have seen it be restored, reinvented, and rebuilt multiple times, complete bankruptcy, devastation in all areas of your life, and then just built back on a stronger foundation each time. And I believe that's because I fight for my future self. So that is my hope, is to help people believe that it's possible.
That is fantastic. Holy smokes, Robyn. Thank you for being on Pro Mindset today.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed our conversation. Where can people find you?
People can find me at Facebook and Instagram. I am Robyn Tanner Coaching. So at Robyn Tanner Coaching, and it's Robyn with a Y. I had to be a little unique there. So it's ROBYN Tanner Coaching. My website is robyntanner.com. You can get my book, The Machete Mentality, on Amazon. It is awesome. Those are my babies on the front. and it is by my former name, but Machete Mentality on Amazon. It's a great read. It'll definitely change your life. So, like coaching for people that maybe they say they can't afford coaching, they don't have time for coaching, they don't believe in coaching yet, get the book. It'll coach you through life, and it's amazing. So, yeah, that's where they can find me. So hit me up.
I want to thank you for tuning in to Pro Mindset Podcast. If you enjoyed the listen, please leave a 5-star rating. If the message was a vibration you connected with, and you have any friends, family, or colleagues who would benefit, then please share this episode with them. You can follow Pro Mindset Podcast on the following social media platforms: Instagram and YouTube, Pro Mindset Podcast; Twitter and Facebook, Pro Mindset Pod; LinkedIn, Pro Mindset. We will drop our shows, Pro Mindset Podcasts, every Wednesday morning, and we invite you to listen and subscribe. Also, don't hesitate to check out our archives to listen to previous shows. And finally, I encourage you to embrace a Pro Mindset truth from today's show. It just might be the key to unlock the pro inside you.